Okay, good morning, everybody. We are holding the fourth reading of the portion of Tazria. We are going to go in today to the portion of Mitzvah. We're holding Leviticus chapter 13, verse number 55. And the Kohen will see it after the nega, the lesion, has been washed away. We're talking about a lesion that's on the clothes of something. And he'll see that the lesion has not changed any appearance. And the lesion has not spread. Tamihu, it's still tummy. He should burn this garment in fire. It's a penetrating lesion. In his worn garment or a new garment. As she says, if you watch the expression of having been done, passive voice, it has not become dimmer in color, it stayed the same color. Rashi says we understand that if the lesion neither change in color nor spread, it's unclean. And it goes without saying that if it did not change in color but did spread, it's unclean. And if it changed in color but still there was a shade that makes it unclean, yet it did not spread, we do not know what should be done with it. Therefore, the Torah says he shall quarantine the article with the lesion in verse number 50. In any case, that is what Rabbi Yehuda said. However, the sages say that since the change of color was still within the unclean shade, the lesion is not considered to be changed at all. It's the same lesion that had already been 2 weeks in quarantine, and now deemed definitely unclean. As Torah states in Torah's Kainim, I have alluded only to the portion of this medrash here in order to explain the different aspects of this verse. So now Rashi goes on to explain it. This expression denotes holes, penetrating, as the verse says, in one of the pits. Pechasim is like a pit, a hole. Let's say in the context it means that the lesion is deep, it appears to be sunken. What's karachte begabat kedeglume? As it says, means it in the worn state or in the new state. Now she's karachte, old worn garments, and because of the Midrash explanation that the language is necessary to exert shavit, a link between two seemingly unrelated passages through a common term, thereby inferring the law of one passage from the law onto another one. This is called the Gzeira Shavah. How do we know that if a lesion on the garment spreads through the entire garment, that it's clean? Of course, it says bekarakte ubegabakte. In the context of a man, when it's on a person himself, as in verse 42. And here the Torah talks about a lesion on a garment and uses the same expression, karakte ubegabakte. So that's Gzeira Shavah. When you have two words that are commonly in the same, even in two different laws, you make Gzeira Shavah. So thus, like in the case of a body, if it covers his whole body, the Torah tells us that here too, if it spreads, the entire body is clean. That's in verse 12 and 13. So too in this case, if it spreads an entire garment comes Teinas, it is clean. Because you can't have a situation where the entire body is impure and the entire, you learn from that. Nobody's totally impure. If somebody's totally impure, then something is missing. So therefore, it's impossible to be totally impure. They adopt a new expression, karachte gabate. Have a concerning explanation, translation of this term. Simple meaning is karachte means old, gabachte means new. Through that was written as a lesion, it ends at the beginning. For the karachte means back. That's by a person, karachte is the back. Gabachte is his front, the back of his head, the front of his head. This is just written if he loses his hair, the front of his head. Kareches referred to the crown towards his back. Thus explained to his concern of a garment it's old and new. On the person's body, it's the front of his head and the back of his head. That's yesterday's Hitas. If the Kohen will look at it, it was washed, and behold, the lesions become dira. Then he shall tear it out of the garment. I mean, cut it out. When does he cut it out? Now she says he should cut out the place where this is the nega is, this affliction is. If he sees it again in the garment, suddenly it comes back again. You should see on the wrap of the threads or in the leather article. This is a recurring sickness, and therefore the Eibishter wants you to throw out this garment. You should burn it in the fire as a sheber naga that has the flame. Barachasi, this is something that keeps on growing back. The entire garment. Verse 58, the negev abeged. And a garment or with threads or any leather article which is washed. And the lesion disappears. The chuba shenis, and you wait and you immerse it a second time. You're tired, and it will be. She says if they have first washed the article by order of the clay, the lesion disappeared completely from it, then the chuba shlei lashon tefillah. This means immersion in a mikvah. Agamumzim translates as the instance of chibus in this whole section. The cleansing is chavar. And with this exception of our verse here, the meaning is not cleansing, but rather immersing in a mikvah. So the chuba sheni is talking about going to the mikvah. That's why over here the Targum in translates v'chubas is v'yitztaba, which means to immerse. Likewise, wherever the word kibbutz of garments refers to immersion in the mikvah, the translation of the Targum will be v'yitztaba. Verse 59. This is the law of affliction, of tzaras in the woolen, in the linen, I should see in the threads, or in leather, the threads are completely or any leather article, to render it clean or top. This ends Parshas Tazria, and we now go into Parshas Mitzaydah. In chapter 14, verse number 1. God spoke to Moshe saying, this is the law of a person that has affliction, the day that he becomes pure. And he shall be brought to the Kohen. She says this teaches us that one is afflicted with a tzaras is not pronounced clean at night. In the day he becomes pure. The Kohen will go out of the camp. But the Kohen will see and that's will see that the person has been healed. Rashi said again, he has to go out of the three camps. The camp of Shechina, with the Beis Mikdash, the camp of Levim, and he has to go to the camp of the Israelites. He has to go out where he's sent. The Kohen has to go to him. The Kohen shall order the person who's been cleansed. I'll take 2 live, clean birds, 8 adders, and a cedar stick, and a strip of crimson wool, Bezav and hyssop. Ashes chayis, when we did to be alive, that means they're not allowed to be diseased or injured. They exclude any unclean bird, forbidden to eat. Why are birds required for this cleansing rite? Why are we eating about tzipor? Because lesion tzaras is a result of talking too much, which is done by chattering. Therefore, his cleansing is the person required to bring birds, which constantly chirp. 8 adders. And why does it bring a stick of a cedar tree? A cedar tree is big. Because again, tzaras comes from holiness, which is symbolized by a cedar. Ushnitalas, and he brings a strip of crimson wool. and hyssop. Why is the remedy that he may heal his tzaras? He must humble himself from his haughtiness, such as symbolized in telas, a worm which infested the berries from which the crimson dye is extracted to the color of wool, and the lowly hyssop tree, a bush, I believe. 8 adders, a stick of cedar wood. Shnitalas is a tongue-like strip of wool dyed crimson. And the Kohen will command, and they will slaughter one of the birds into an earthen vessel, mayim chayim, over spring water. What does that mean? Ash says he pours into the vessel, earthen vessel, first the water, in order that the blood of the bird should be recognized in it. So he takes the earthen vessel, he puts water of the Beis Hamikdash, and then he shechs the bird, and the blood goes on it, on the water. And how much water is necessary? A revius, a quarter of a lug. It's 3.2 ounces. Then he takes the live bird. And he takes the piece of the stick of cedar. He takes the strip of crimson. In the hyssop. So he dips it. With the live bird, he dipped into the blood of the slaughtered bird. Over the spring water. Scripture Torah separates the taking of the bird from the other items. This teaches us that he did not bind it with them. You don't take the 3 things he binds together: the stick, the crimson wool, and the hyssop. But the bird is separate. It states the cedar stick and the hyssop, however, are bound together with a tongue of strip of crimson wool. As this matter stated, then the cedar stick, the strip of crimson wool, and the hyssop, meaning one act of taking the 3 of them. Cedar stick and the hyssop are bound together with the end of the tongue of the crimson wool, and the loose end is dipped into the blood together with them. And one might think that since the bird is not included with the binding, it's not included also in the dipping of blood. Therefore, the Torah says, along with the live bird, you shall dip them, thereby including the bird in the dipping in the water. And then you sprinkle 7 times upon the person being cleansed from tzaras. And it becomes pure. You send away the live bird. Verse 8. Then the person cleanses himself in the mikveh. And then he shaves off all his hair. And he immerses himself also in the mikveh. And then he can come into the camp. But he shall remain outside his tent for 7 days. He's not like, what does that mean? I'll come. What are you going to do? Live outside the house for 7 days? Rashi says it means he's not having any relationship. Teach us that the spirit is prohibited to have marital relationship. So he's still impure to his wife. Then it comes in the 7th day. So he's home. Now he's home quarantined. He shall shave off all his hair, his head, his beard, his eyebrows. Was God saying, indeed, his coal, so indeed, all his hair, he shall shave off. And his garments and his flesh, he goes to the mikveh, and it becomes. Ash says over here, have a klal, prater klal. Verse says he got a kolbasari, all his hair. Then it says the hair of his head, the hair of his eyes, the hair of his eyelids, his beard. So you have and then you have his kolbasari, klal, prater klal. So this is a general statement followed by a specific statement, namely the head, the beard, the eyebrows, followed in turn by a general statement, all the hair. So the Tachi says, "Ein mishman beprat." that whatever, when you have a klal or prat to klal, is only, it tells you that it needs to, you follow the prat. And what's the prat? Here that you can see, not covered here. And that's why only hair that is visible is, if you have, he has hair on his hands, he takes off the hair, but not hair that is usually covered. Verse number 2. Then on the 8th day, he has to take two kvas and 2 unblemished male lambs. And 1 unblemished ewe lamb. Shleisha says mincha, and 3/10 of an ephah of flour, mixed oil, a lug b'shem, a lug yachashemen, and 1 lug of oil. Asher kifsa achas, 1 male lamb and 1 ewe lamb were to be sacrificed, 1 as a burnt offering and 1 as a sin offering. Although the Torah is not typically say which animals for which one, however, since a female animal is never brought as a burnt offering, it's obvious that the ewe lamb, that the female was to be sacrificed as a sin offering. Shleisha Seinen, why do you need to have 2/10 of flour for libation? You need to accompany the libation with these 3 lambs. Unlike in a sin offering and guilt offering, the sin offering and the guilt offering, stricken to of a tzaras needs libation. A regular chatas doesn't need libation. He needs to have oil to sprinkle on his behalf 7 times. I'll do some place in the commentaries you'll soon see. He has to have oil. The kohen would put oil on his ears and on his thumb, his toe, etc. So he needed oil. Then the kohen will perform the cleansing and shall place the person cleansed together with these things before Hashem Pesach. She said B'shara Nikanor. So in the Beis Hamikdash, this was by the gate of Nikanor. This was not in the Beis Hamikdash proper. And this expression means the temple courtyard. In this case, however, it means that it's placed at the Nikanor gate, but not within the courtyard itself, since he's lacking atonement yet. The Nikanor gate was the eastern end of the courtyard, directly facing the holy. Thus, when standing inside the gate, the person was placed before the Lord without entering the courtyard. For this purpose, space under the Nikanor gate was left unsanctified. So, again, the Beis Hamikdash, Rashi talking Beis Hamikdash, not in the Mishkan. The Beis Hamikdash, there was the Nikanor gate, which separated Ezra Shlashim from Ezra Yisrael, and meaning that he didn't leave Ezra Shlashim. He stayed in the first courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, and we know that over there there was there were 4 corner houses, and one of them was the basement, one of them was Mitzvah. All the things that the Mitzvah were done in that building were still in the courtyard outside the Beis Hamikdash, the courtyard of the temple itself. And that's what Rashi in essence says. So I don't know how it was done in the Mishkan, but the Beis Hamikdash, it was done, all things were done before the Mitzvah was totally brought a sack. It was done outside in the woman's courtyard, not in the actual courtyard of the temple. That's why that's called, that doorway to the actual courtyard of the temple was called Shar Nikanor. And when you passed, you couldn't pass that doorway yet. Then the kohen takes the male lamb, he brings it as a guilt offering. It's like Hashem and the log of oil. The Haina says that through Hashem, and he lifts them as a wave before God. Rashi says he shall bring it inside the courtyard. He has to bring it as a sacrifice. So the kohen is inside the courtyard, and the Jews outside the courtyard. The purpose of the guilt offering to wave it. It requires waving while still alive. The Haina requires waving while still alive. The Haina he lifts up the offering in the look. Verse 13. Then he slaughters the lamb in the place one slaughters the guilt to sin offering and a burnt offering. The Makom Pedish, the holy place, but it's a guilt and it's a sin and a guilt offering. Like Kohen, it goes to the Kohen. Kodesh Kadashim, it's holy of holies. As she says, namely that this is the side of the the altar at the north side of the sanctuary. But what does this verse come to teach us? What is not already stated regarding the laws of a guilt offering and a parshas in the previous Leviticus chapter 7, that the guilt offering was required to be slaughtered in the north. Since the guilt offering differs from this guilt offering, differs from other guilt offerings, and so far that it requires a placing together with the one who brings it, one might think that the animal should be slaughtered where it's placed, meaning at the nikin or gate, and not on the north side of the altar. Therefore, the Torah tells us that no, it's not like a regular sin offering, which is the Jew is also in the base in the courtyard of the temple. He's also the north side of the courtyard, the north side of the over here. The guy standing outside in the woman's courtyard. So you might think maybe it's a different kind of an offering. Therefore, the Torah tells us no, that the Jew is standing in the women's courtyard, and the kohen needs to go back and stand in the north side of the mizbeach. Ichatas, it's like all sin offerings. Asher mazed is guilt of. Hu la kohen, it's to the kohen. All the procedures of the holy service performed by the kohen. This guilt offering is likened to a sin offering. This satisfies, so one should not say, since the blood of this guilt offering is unlike that of other guilt offerings. So far as it's placed on the cartilage of the ear and the thumb of the big toe, so this is a whole different kind of a sin offering. Because you don't take a regular sin offering, you take the blood and put it on the person that has sinned. Besides this, it's a special law. So again, one might say that maybe it's a different kind of a law. Therefore, it said regarding the service of kohen, the guilt offering is just like any other guilt. However, if so, one might think that the blood is applied above the red line, the line that was around the mizbeach, like the blood offering, like a sin offering. Therefore, the Torah tells us in the law of a guilt offering, where the term Torah, an exclusive term, coming here to include this special guilt offering, that the blood should be applied below the red line as any other guilt offering, even though in all other respects the sacrifice is similar to a sin offering. The difference between a guilt offering, and we learned that before, if you remember, in a sin offering is where the blood is put, on the top of the mizbeach or the bottom of the mizbeach. Therefore, the regular sin offering is put on the top, above the red line. The guilt offering is put on the bottom. Here the Torah tells us that even though in one hand it's like a chatas, that should be put the blood on top. For ourselves over here, it's like a regular asham, and the blood is put on the bottom. Verse 14. Then the Torah takes the blood of this guilt off. And he takes it and he places a little blood on the cartilage of the right ear of the person who has been coming to be purified. And the thumb of his right hand. And the big toe of his right foot. So he puts in the middle of the wall of the ear. Actual terminology, the ton of is unknown to me, whether it's in Hebrew or Aramaic, but its interpretation is the tendon. Bayin is the good of the thumb. And then the kohen takes from the lug, from the oil that he gave, and he pours it into the kohen's left palm. And then the kohen takes his right index finger, he dips it into his palm in the oil. And he takes and he sprinkles 7 times towards, as Rashi says, he sprinkles it toward the Beis Hamikdash. The remainder of the oil that's in his palm, the kohen shall place in the cartilage of the right ear of the person being clean, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the toe, on the big toe of his right foot, together with the blood of the guilt offering. And is the leftover oil that's still in his hand, Al Kafa Koyin, still in the sun. Yitel al Reisha Matai. He puts on the head of the one who's being purified. The Chipel al Koyin, Fnei Hashem, and the Koyin will bring him on. This would surely stop anybody from talking Lashon Hara. And then the Kohen will bring the Korban Chatas. The people are Matai will bring purity onto the one who has Saras, Mitumasif, and his uncleanness. And then he shall slaughter the carbon, the burnt offering. The Kohen will bring up the oil of the burnt offering and the mincha, the food, the meal offering. On the altar, the Kohen will bring cleansing, forgiveness to the person, and he'll become. She says, this is mincha, this is nesachim, this is libation, meal offering, shalabehema, which came with the animal. And that completes the Chumash of today. So now we're holding in the middle of Parshas Mitzayda. As we read today, this week, we do 2 portions, Tazria and Mitzayda. We now go to the Tanya of the day. And we're going to end the 42nd chapter of Tanya. So, introduction describing earlier the fear a Jew should possess for God. The Rebbe said that it should be similar to the fear that felt standing in front of a king. For God is our presence, observes all man's action. The question arises, when one stands before a king, he's not only being seen by the king, but he's also looking at him. And this helps him to stand in fear because he sees it. Over here, the king sees you. You're not seeing the king. In the analogy, however, it's not the case. Though God, the king, sees him, he fails to see God. So it's a little bit of an analogy that it's hard for you and me to comprehend because he lives in a world, a visual world. So you're comparing, you're saying, you have to feel like a dalaf and we have to feel like we're standing before a king. When I'm standing before a king, I know I'm standing before a king. Alter Rebbe will now respond to this question by saying that there is another means by which an individual may awaken within himself the fear of God. By be able to see the king. For by observing the heavens and the earth, and all that created being that inhabit them, and realizing that all the life derive the life from God. The Rambam says, greatness, see the greatness of God through the world. Alter Rebbe says, in addition, one should remember, just like a king of flesh and blood. Why are you afraid of a king? Not afraid of the king's body. He might be smaller than you. He might be stronger than the king. Why are you afraid of the king? You're afraid of the power of the king. The power, the essence, the vitality, the strength that this king has. Not per se for his physical body. Because when the king is sleeping, through his body does not change. Why are you afraid of him? He's sleeping, he doesn't know you're there. But you're still afraid of him. Why? Because you're not afraid of the king's physical body. You're afraid of the power that the king has. So this is because while he sleeps, his inner essence of vitality in a state of concealment. Clearly then, they are the remaining reason to fear a king while he's awake. There's surely the inner essence of vitality of a king, physical king, is not seen to the eyes of a person. Like it's seen in the eyes of his mind. Through the physical eyes beholding his body, the garments of the king, because he knows the vitality of the king is in this body. So he sees the body and he realizes the power and his vitality, his strength, the character that he has. Mean king, he's a vicious king, he's something to be afraid of him. Gracious king. So this turns his head at least to be able to fear. Okay, and if so, then surely an analogy as well. Not only is the king seeing him, but he's seeing the king as well. And this causes him to fear God, moreover. So truly, we should fear God. When we gaze on the field with his physical eyes, as he looks at the heavens and the earth, the Choltzavam and all its hosts, which the Eibishter gives them vitality. So when you look at Morav Masech Hashem, you look at the beauty of the world, and you realize how God gives the vitality. It's not the tree. It's the beauty of God's creation. Alter Rebbe will now say that looking at heavens and the earth, one not only becomes aware of the godly vitalizing force, but also perceives that the world and all its inhabitants are truly nullified to divine life force. This can be perceived by observing the stars and the planets, all of which travel in westerly direction. In doing so, they express their nullification to the Shekhinah. They're all traveling, all bowing down. So to say, the Gemara says that. Which is the God's presence, which is in the west. And that's why they all travel to the west. As Alter Rebbe says in this paragraph, and this note, you also see the glance of the eye. They all nullify to the blessed Ein Sof. You see that they all travel, the sun, the moon, and all the stars, they all travel to the west. They're all sun setting in the west. They're all setting in the west. As our blessed, the Gemara, as the sage is saying in the Gemara. The verse, the Pasuk says the heavens, the host of the heavens, are all bowing to you. And the way we see it, they're all bowing to the west. The Shekhinah is in the west. So hence their heavenly hosts show their self-emanation, but it's set in the west. Because that's their hashtachava, that's their bowing. We find this written, if the sun and the moon and the planets to follow their natural characteristics, they would travel easterly rather than a westerly direction. How did they do so? That's why their constant self-glorification. Not an astronomer, but the Alter Rebbe says that they should go the other way. But they go to the western way. This is found in the west. For all 4 points of the compass are rooted in the supernal spheres. Malchus, the level of Shekhinah, is in the west. Thus, even man's eye observes the self-nullification of creation to the divine force. But they're traveling to the west. And even if one never saw a king and does not recognize him at all, when he enters the royal courtyard, there the king is not revealed at all. And it's not in the place of his royal throne and the like. In the analogy, this refers to the physical world, in which various proofs are necessary in order to bring about self-nullification to the king. And he sees many eminent nobles prostrate themselves before one man. person who enters and looks superficially is unable to detect the difference between him and the other men present. This is a note by the Rebbe. People alav ema v'fachad. There falls on him a dread and awe. So too, the self-nullification before God showed by awesome creatures, such as the heavenly bodies, enables one to fear and awe of him. So now the Alter Rebbe is in essence giving an analogy. When you go into, even when you don't see the king, but you see when all these noblemen are showing honor to a king. So even if you didn't see the king, you understand the greatness of the king. If all these great people are showing respect to the king, so now you understand the greatness of the king, even though you don't have the capability to go into the king. So too, in essence, when we see all the Tzva Shemayim, all God's hosts are all Pashut bowing down to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now we understand. Even though we don't see the king, we understand the greatness of the king. However, the question may be asked, one gazes upon the whole body of a physical king. He sees before and beyond a shadow of a doubt the king himself. He therefore can extrapolate intellectually about the inner essence and the vitality of a king that comes in fear. This is also, however, with regard to physical creatures. Divine life force is so concealed within them through so many garbs of concealment, it's quite possible that one gazes at them and fails to be aware of that their bodies are but garments, divine life force they contain. Alter Rebbe now goes on to say that therefore it's important for a person to observe physical created beings to cultivate the habit immediately recalling that within the concealment of their external trappings and garments, there is to be found that godliness that animates. By doing so, one is then able to perceive the divine life force fine with. So that's what you got to get used to. We get used to looking at things and looking at physical things and realizing that what's behind them is a life force, is a godly life force. And not get lost in the physical. But even to look at a physical thing and to be able to realize that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what the Alter Rebbe says. Although many garments are involved in this vesture, so that when one gazes on a created being, one does not perceive that they are but garments to the divine life force. A person has to come to the realization there's no difference in distinction at all in the fear of a mortal king, whether he's naked or clothed in one or many garments. We all are not afraid of the king. We're all not afraid of the garments of the king. We're afraid of the king. We're all not afraid of authority, of what kind of garment he wears, but we're afraid of the power that he has. It's this realization that the king is found within the garments that creates the fear of him. Same, the Alter Rebbe will conclude, is true here. When a person becomes accustomed to remember that when he gazes upon created beings, he is in reality gazing upon king's garments, will then come to fear. That's what Alter Rebbe says. The essential thing, however, is to a training and to habituate, to make it a habit in one's mind and thought continuously. So that it'll always remain imprinted in his heart and his mind. That with anything that he sees with his eyes, the heavens and the earth and everything that it contains, Whatever you see outside in the world, they are all garments. You're looking at garments. When you look at a tree, when you look at a rock, when you look at a mountain, when you look at the sun, when you look at the moon, these are all garments with clothes itself. God. If you can train yourself, you'll remember. You'll always remember on the inner vitality, which is God, which creates within him a fear of God, because it's awesome concepts. The Rebbe explains that what now follows answers the question. How can we possibly say here that the nullification of the world to God is a concept that can be received intellectually? In chapter 33, this Rebbe means that our Rebbe. Chapter 33, the Alter Rebbe explained that it was a matter of faith. In this chapter too, we have learned that it's a matter of faith. All Jews are believers, descendants of believers, and so on. Faith and intellect are not only distinct entities, antithetical. For example, when something is understood, faith is not necessary. Rebbe now goes on to explain that this intellectual perception is also implicated in the word emunah, faith. Because the word emunah is rooted in the word umein, an artisan, an umein, like a sculptor. In order for one artist with a talent for painting or creating a vessel, or whatever, to be successful, he must again habituate and train his hands. Only then will they reveal the latent talents of the artistry found in his soul. And that's the greatness of an artist. That's truly the greatness of an artist, to be able to see an artist and the way he works is you can see the talent. And that's why I don't have a talent in artistry at all. But when you watch an artist and you're a sculptor, you see, wow, that he has such talent, such unbelievable talent is coming through the work of his hands. The same is true here. The soul of every Jew possesses the above-mentioned faith. We have a talent. We have unbelievable talent. We have unbelievable faith. That's our talent. Our talent, mamina b'nei mamina. We believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's in our nature. We have a certain unbelievable talent. In order for this faith to be actualized, so that one's actions will be connected, in sync with his talent. One must make it a hegel, make it a habit, and train himself to realize that all he sees, heavens and earth, and all creation, are but God's external gods. That's the way we bring out our talent. That's the way we bring out our talent, which was given to us. By constantly remembering that the inwardness is godliness, the soul's essential faith will be revealed and will affect one's action. His bodily organs will then follow the dictates of his faith. So that's the kavanah. The faith is the talent. The revelation of faith is my personal involvement. Just like the artist, his artistry is his talent, and his work and his hard labor and his becoming. But that's the way he reveals his talent. If a person doesn't work hard, the artist wouldn't work hard to be the artist. He would have he would have an unbelievable talent, but it won't be revealed through the actions of his hands. So actually, his talent, when an artist or a sculptor makes a painting or makes a beautiful sculpture, he basically has that talent and he brings it out, this talent, through a hard labor and a lot of effort and a lot of false mistakes and fixing, etc. He brings it out, his talent. But he had that talent. Some people don't have that talent. And they'll never have that talent. We Jews have a talent. We have a munah. That's our talent. That's our essence. That's what's called in Tanya, Ava Miseteres. We have a hidden talent. And we cannot bring out that hidden talent without working on it, without becoming a sculptor. That's why the Alter Rebbe says that munah is the concept of an artist. We all need to become artists. And that takes avodah through our own intellect. To ultimately reveal our talent. To ultimately reveal the munah that we have, the talent that we have. That we are maminim b'nei maminim. So we need to take the world. And that's the point. We need to take the world to ultimately work on our physical world and our physical self to reveal our inner talent. And then when we reveal our inner talent, then the body, then it becomes like you watch a painter, and it's like wow, he's like a wonder person. To him, it's doing what he does naturally. He's a painter. He's a sculptor. So when you look at a sculptor, you say, wow, he takes a piece of stone, turns it into an unbelievable statue. But by him, it's something that he has within him, and he just revealed it in a physical way. He taught himself that his hands and his talent will come together, and they will create this beautiful thing. And that's how you take, and that's the analogy. So the Alter Rebbe says the whole world, everything in the world that God created, is all to reveal our inner talents. The Eibishter created this beautiful world, and we can say, wow, how beautiful this world is. And to be able to see really what's behind the world, which is the creative force of God. So to reveal our inner talents, our emunah in the Eibishter, our faith in God. And that's our inner talent, which is totally emunah, because it's totally above the physical world. It's a more elusive thing, like a talent of an artist, that he has an artist, that he's an artist. It's a talent. Not everybody has the talent of artistry to be able to be an artist, to be a sculptor. So it's a talent. And that's the implication of the word faith. And Munah has also the concept of training. An artist, training. A person can have a talent and will never train himself, will never use his talent. Person that works at it, he works, a talented person that brings out his talent, took a lot of effort. He has to become part of it. That's what I think that means that he's trying to explain the word regilus. Habituous it becomes a habit to him. It becomes like a natural thing to him. His talent becomes natural. It's like part of him. Like a person who trains his hand. I always go to see a sefer, for example, where a sefer writes a Torah. Unbelievable talent. Do you ever watch it? See, wow, guy's writing such small letters, and he's doing it so beautifully. Talent. He has trained his hand. His talent has trained his hand to be able to write these kind of letters, one next to the other, and beautifully written. Talent, calligraphy, all talents that we have. The Rebbe notes that the one who trains his hand means He's cognitive on the craft in his soul. He has a natural talent for it, but needs only to train his hands. Like, because the hand is just a physical, the hand has no talent. It's the person's talent. I have the same hands like he. He can do calligraphy like in my letters and slide. Because he's taken his talent, he's trained his hands to be able to find a tangible expression in his actions. Be it through art or fashioning vessels, anything, whatever your talent is. We all have talents. And the Abishah gave us that we all these talents, we have the capability to train ourselves to use our talents to the best of our capabilities. That it comes out in a positive way. So whatever your talent is, you're great with numbers. You become a talent. So you have a talent. Abishah gave you a talent. And now you're taking this talent and by you it becomes a natural thing. But it took you a long time. It took you a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of, as we learn, you learn to kind of repeat, to take something and ultimately to become your nature. It's really not your, it's really your talent that is that is revealing itself in this nature. So to a painter, everybody thinks, wow, again, going to a painter or to a cipher, he doesn't see why you're making a big deal about him. He's used to, that's what he does. He's taught himself to do it. And to him, it comes like he's doing it. He's writing, it looks easy. Thus, the analogy contains both aspects. The king sees the individual, and he sees the king as it were. By looking at a created being and perceiving through them the divine life first that vitalized them. And that's really what Chazal wants when it says, look at the world and don't see the physical, see what animates them. As you look at yourself and you have a munah, or you look at somebody else and you realize that he is a real munah. He has real faith. He has faith in his talent. He has faith in himself. And that's what real emunah means, to have faith in yourself. The Rebbe knows the reason why the Alter Rebbe now goes on to say there should also be, we'll switch in a second, is that until now, it's explained how a Jew generates the fear of heaven through intellectual contemplation. The degree of fear he arouses will correspond exactly to the extent of his contemplation. The deeper the contemplation, the greater the fear. It also depends on how much each individual is governed by his intellect. So that's the problem. We have two problems. First of all, is limitation and limited intellect. And number two is, how much does his intellect govern it? Furthermore, it is too much to expect of all people constantly to achieve a state of intellectual awareness. Yet all people are obligated to stand in constant fear of heaven. But therefore now goes on to elaborate on a frame of mind in which one must exist constantly, accepting the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. This is not attained to contemplation, rather it comes as a result of faith alone. And this state can exist constantly in all individuals. Accept upon yourself the yoke of heaven. Kabbalah's Malchus Shamayim. Gam liyizichem tamer loshen chachamenu zochein l'bracha. There should also be a constant remembrance, and not through the concept of the world, contemplation, and meditation. Constant because it does not depend on prior contemplation, but rather on one's pure faith. Kabbalah's El Malchus Shamayim. Sages say, of blessed memory, accept upon yourself the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. As the verse says, you shall appoint a king over you. As I explained another time. So then you want to go on pure faith. Not faith like concept of an artisan. Bullshit, simple faith. I'm no artisan, I'm no artist. I don't have the capability of creating this whole. I should have simple faith. This is also down to the episode earlier in Tanya. Even though after all this meditation, no fear of dread upon him is manifest in man in his heart. Still, he should accept upon himself that God is the king. Accept himself the yoke of the heavenly king. The Alter Rebbe explained there, this attribute is found in every Jew in a sincere manner because of the nature of the Jewish soul not to rebel against God. That's it. That's a simple faith. This level of fear can be therefore always present because every one of us is a part of God, and therefore it's impossible for us to rebel against something that we're part of, and that's acceptance of the yoke of it. The God bless me for ghosts, so to say, the sages say, are creatures that are higher in the lower worlds. They're not the ultimate intent of creation. And he uniquely bestows his kingship upon us. And we accept his kingship. Every day, davening, every bracha that we make. That's it. We accept God as king above us. And this is the concept of why we bow in davening in Shmanes. Even though we already accepted the kingship of heaven, when we said the Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu, Shem Echad, the Ahavta Hashem Elokecha, I already accepted. How many times I have to? Why do we need to bow? So there, I accepted God, an expression of my true love. Now I go a higher. Shtachava is higher than even your heart. I just bow. Because over here in Shemoneh Esrei, it's not just stop saying something or even contemplating this concept. Pashit, bowing. Simply bowing. And that's what we do to God. We bow our existence to God. We accept the yoke of heaven. And this is what God wants, this we will do. That's the concept of bowing. But the bowing, of course, in the prayer of Amidah, one shows one's acceptance, the actual deeds of oneself. Like God bow. That's a physical bowing. It's not just the concept of my words that comes from my mind and that comes from my heart. It's simple. I bow to God. I accept the yoke of heaven. What's the yoke of heaven? That's a yoke. Yoke of heaven is like a yoke on a cow. That's what it's called, a yoke. It's like a yoke. I put upon myself, I say, I bow myself to God. What you want, I will do. And that's the ultimate. So even after all these, as the Alter Rebbe said, after all these contemplation and meditations, which the Alter Rebbe said, I hope these will bring about a self-revelation. That's what is Shema, a self-revelation of love of God and fear of God. But ultimately, sometimes we need to have the backup plan. And the backup plan is, I accept the yoke of heaven. I realize God is my source. If what God wants, that's what I will do. And that's the backup plan. And that's faith in the simple meaning of faith. Not like the Alter Rebbe explained that faith is a woman, a Protestant, but bullshit, simple faith. And that's the backup, which we all have within us. So if we cannot awaken up ourselves, because we don't have great intellect and great capacity of meditation and contemplation to understand God, and through the understanding of God, I reveal my Avos Hashem and my fear of God. I don't have that capability, but I do have the capability of accepting the yoke of heaven because I have an neshama, because I'm a part of Kadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, I have that capability of doing what Baruch has explained. And that completes chapter 42. Today is the 28th day of the month, which goes from chapter 135 to 139. And you would complete. And you would do the Chita Sodin. Wish you all a great day. And Mitzvah, we'll see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Continue.